Yes. We'll obey your word. Yes, Lord. Hallelujah. Glory. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you.
Get your Bibles and turn with me to the book of Luke, chapter 14. Foundational scriptures will be drawn from verses 25 through 33. We're just going to read verse 26 today. Luke chapter 14, verse 26. Luke chapter 14, verse 26. When you have it, say amen. Amen. Let's read that together. Ready, let's read.
If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and his wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple.
You can be seated in the presence of the Lord. We're going to continue with our series on discipleship. And this morning we want to talk about discipleship and family relationships. What did I say? Discipleship and family relationships. I think that all of us would agree that our families are important. In fact, your family is the second most important thing in your life. Your relationship with the Lord being first, but your relationships to your family is the second most important thing in your life. But I think we also must understand that we've got to learn to prioritize our family relationships, because many of us, our families are more important to us than God. We've committed ourselves to our families, but we still have not yet committed ourselves to God. And it's a good thing if you take care of your children, or if you honor and respect your mother and your father, and if you have good relationship between your siblings and good relationship between your blood relations. But Jesus here is giving us some very important instructions and letting us know that we cannot put anything or anyone before Him. And if we're going to become disciples, if we're going to become people that have taken on the character and nature of Christ, we've got to learn to put Him first. We must learn to place Him on the throne of our lives. Some of us, our husbands, our wives, our boyfriends, our girlfriends, our children are more important than God. And do you not know that when you put anything before God, that person becomes an idol to you? Yeah. And I know we think in terms of idol worship being some handmade statue that someone sets on a shelf or builds a shrine to. But it doesn't necessarily mean, most of us don't worship things like that. Most of us don't give our allegiance to things of stone or precious metal. But if we ask people, what's the most important thing to you? Most will say family first. Even before God. They'll say, my children, my babies, that's my word. There's nothing more important than my babies. My man, my woman. There's nothing more important than them. But if we're going to truly become disciples, and we said at the beginning of this series that we want to examine our lives and see if we're truly disciples or becoming disciples, so that we can really tap into what God has for us. And I've got some things I want to share with you concerning your family relationships. And I trust that you will not turn me off, because many times when I start talking about your family relationships, you kind of turn me off, because you come to the realization that that he talks about my family, he talks about my mom, he talks about my dad, he talks about my children. But I want you to get to the place where you understand. Listen, if you don't have a relationship with God, you can't really be the leader of your family like you need to. Are you hearing me? Amen. If you don't have a relationship to the Lord, you can't be the best mother you can be. You can be a good mother, but I mean the best mother that you can be. If you don't have a relationship with the Lord, you cannot be the best son or daughter to your parents that you want to be. So we want to understand that Jesus had some very and hard things to say concerning our families. And there's a story in the Bible, and I'm going to relate this to you, then we're going to move on. That this mother came to Jesus and said to him, I want you to let my sons have a place of high authority in your kingdom. She said, I want you to let my sons sit on the 12 thrones that will be in the millennial kingdom. And Jesus said to the mother, he said, do you really know what you're asking me? And the woman, without thinking, said, yes, of course I do. I know what I'm asking you. I want my sons to have a place of authority in your kingdom. And Jesus said to her, well, really, that's not mine to give. That's the Father's discretion of whom those positions are going to be given to. But I want you to understand that can your sons drink of the cup that I'm going to drink of? And can your sons go through what I'm going to go through? And that mother said, yes, my sons can do that. She really didn't even think about what Jesus was saying to them. In other words, he was saying, are your sons going to be able to suffer and go through and be killed like I'm going to? And she said, yes. That mother didn't understand the relevance of what she was asking concerning her sons. And many times in family relationships, we ask God about things, and we put things, we have things up on our heart, but we really don't know what we're asking God for when we ask them. That's right. Are you hearing me? We've got to put our family relationships in perspective and prioritize our families. I'm going to say this again. I don't want you to think that I don't value families. I love my family, and I'm talking about my natural family by blood, and I love you, my spiritual family. But do you not know there's a relationship in my life that's more important than the relationship that I have with my wife and my children and my relatives? Do you not know there's a relationship that I have that's more important than even the relationship that I have with you? And that's my relationship to the Lord. And you got to understand that too. Yes. Jesus said, if any man come to me, now this is somebody that's seeking after God, and hate not his father, his mother, his wife, his children, his brothers, his sisters, and even his own self, he cannot be my disciple. Now, what is the Lord really saying here? Is he saying that we're supposed to despise our family relationship? No, what he's saying here, he's saying that there has to be, you have to love him more than you love your family.
That's right.
You got to love the Lord more than you love anybody. One of the commandments that Israel took so much pride in is that they said they loved the Lord God with all their heart, their mind, their soul, and everything was in them. But really, when they were put to the test and the Lord began to examine them, they really didn't love God like they said they did. They only had a love for him with lip service, but their relationship in their hearts really wasn't as it should be. And we've got to stop saying how much we love God, but we've got to begin to show that by our lifestyle toward him.
Amen.
He said, you cannot be my disciple. He didn't say you might not be my disciple. He said, you cannot be my disciple. And when the Lord said you cannot do something, that means you cannot do it. There are times when people tell you that you can't do things, but you can overcome that. And you can say, no, they told me I can't do this, but they don't really have any say-so in this. Because they said it don't mean that I can't do it. But when the Lord said you can't do something, you can't do it.
That's right.
You cannot be his disciple. You cannot be his follower. You cannot be his learner. You cannot take on his character and his nature. The first thing I want to share with you is that you got to recognize that your discipleship and commitment to the Lord will result in division and sometimes rejection in your family. You say, what? Just because I love the Lord, that means that's going to bring some division in my family? Yes, especially if they don't. They'll say, oh yeah, child, she go to church, and I can respect that. But the moment you begin to approach them about relationship to God, then the dividing line come there. Come on, be real with me. Yeah. When you start approaching your family relationships and begin to tell them about the Lord and try to get them to come to the Lord, don't many of them reject you? Come on, be real with me this morning. Don't many of them turn a deaf ear to you and say, yeah, I know about all that Jesus stuff, but I don't really want to hear about, in the family reunions, when the family is on the forefront, if you want to talk about Jesus, don't nobody really want to hear what you got to say. And family reunions are wonderful. I love them. I love going to them. I love seeing, those ones that sometimes I hadn't seen for a year. But, we've got to come to a realization that, there's going to be a reunion that's not on this earth. Y'all understand what I'm saying? There's going to be a gathering together of all the saints of the ages and everybody that know God. And we're going to have a family reunion that's going to last for 7 years. Y'all. I'm talking about the marriage supper of the Lamb, if y'all don't know what I'm talking about. That's when the Lord's family is going to come together and we're going to celebrate our Lord and our Savior. That's going to be more, that's going to be greater than the family reunion that we have here on earth. But we've got to recognize that our discipleship sometimes brings division.
That's right.
Matthew 10:34 says, and this is Jesus talking. Jot this down. You don't necessarily have to turn to it, but in your personal devotion time, read it. Matthew 10:34 through 36. Jesus said, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. Now you say, what Jesus talking about? That's a contradiction right there. He said he was the Prince of Peace, and he give us peace. But now he's saying, don't think that I've come to bring peace on earth. He said, I am not come to send peace, but a sword. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Foe is the enemy. Jesus is saying, I came to bring a dividing line. Jesus. I've come to cause division to come, because I'm going to call for you to make a choice between the most important thing in your life. Is it me or is it them? He's not saying don't love. Jesus said in the commandments, he said, what? Honor your father and your mother, that your days will be long upon the land that the Lord thy God given you. So he's not saying disrespect your father. He's not saying disrespect your mother. He's not saying that your mom-in-law is your greatest enemy, though some of us, think that. No, that's not it. But what he's saying, when you make the choice between them and him, and you really want to become a disciple, many times it brings division.
Yes. Amen.
Are you sure you want to be a disciple? No. I'm going to talk about counting up the cost later on. Are you sure you